Hello, ladies. I'm so glad that you came by and that you don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to go anywhere. And you can stay home, mind your children, mind your family, and not be gone for a long time for a seminar. As a matter of fact, some of those ladies' days weren't really about Titus 2 or the home, were they? They were about other things that maybe didn't help us at home. And so I am making these videos so you can do something while you listen. It's not really a watching video, so if after 15 minutes you've had enough, you're just welcome to turn it off or pick it up again. And so I'm doing this for my blog. Now, I have parked them on YouTube. I don't have any comments there. I don't really want to be part of the YouTube community. I would just like you to go to my blog and post your comment there and give your donation over there, because what's happening with YouTube is they've changed so many things that it's difficult to publish it over there, but it will work when it's embedded on my blog. So please go over there, see what else is going on, have a look at my blog roll and visit some of the other homemakers, get some ideas from them. And if you're having trouble getting started today, then this might be just the place you want to be. But before you go and do your work, and this is just a radio program, just pretend it's radio. I do want to show you something before you go. I have my teacup here today, and it kind of goes with all this beautiful red that's going on around town and around my home. Is red because of Valentine's Day, but it's more than that. It's just a wonderful red month around this area. Everyone just loves the color. They wear it, and we're having a church dinner in which the tables all are decorated with red roses, and it's just a wonderful, cheerful time, and we need it this time of year, don't we? Anyway, this is the cup and saucer that I wanted to show you. I'm recycling it all. You've seen all these before, and this is called Red Velvet by Royal Standard. It doesn't have a year, but most of these are from probably the 1960s. Now, I would not buy this, knowing as much as I do about teacups and some of the hints that I've given you. The reason I would not buy this, it's in good condition. You run your fingers around the edge, and if you don't feel anything rough, and if it looks like the drinking part is still nice and clean and shiny, and there are no nicks in it, it's good, but I wouldn't buy it again, and I'll tell you why. These older ones had such teeny tiny little handles. They're really hard to pick up, and even if a child decided to use them, they could get their fingers stuck in it. It might go in, but might not come out. So I probably will retire this to a group that needs the teacups and can use them for other things. And I wanted to tell you also that you can't repair a teacup. I tried it once, and I bought some kind of special clay, and I tried to repair a little nicked part from one that my grandmother had, and then you have to bake it in the oven, and then you have to put a glaze over it, and it's really not worth it. It doesn't actually work. Once they've got a crack in it and they're gone, you can't use them again, but you can replace them, or you can also, in the olden days, ladies used to just put a little violet in it and put it in their windowsill by their kitchen sink. And you would see their windowsill lined up with all these teacups, and they had little plants in them. That's what they used them for. And so you can use them again. Some people make pin cushions out of them, but basically there are many different things you can. I know some people collect them if they're broken and use them to make ceramic tiles and ceramic things like on top of tables, which is very nice. And so I wanted to show you that so that you can get to work. And then I wanted to clear up a problem. Oops. Clear up a problem with a book that I was reading out of last time. Now, I read out of this book, and it's called Tea with Jane Austen by Kim Wilson. It's the one that has all the Jane Austen-y things in it and the pictures like this that are so delightful. And it's by Kim Wilson. It even has some nice drawings in it. And then in the back, of course, it has the recipes. And then with every recipe is a story. And like here's Tea on the Road. Tea on the Road. And there was Tea on the Road. I'll just read you some of the titles here so that you'll know which book it is. And it's It's the Happy Happy Breakfast book that I really like. Tea and Shopping, Tea and Health, and Tea in the Evening. And so this just was a really nice book to read. And so that's which one this was, by Kim Wilson. Okay, so it's a different book than this one. This one, if you order this one, you only get recipes. And there are no, well, they have a few pictures in it. Like on page 58, there's a photograph there, and there are a few drawings and graphics. There's a photograph in that one. That's on page 43. So if you don't think you got one with photos, this does have photos, but it doesn't have the story behind it. And so this is this Tea with Jane Austen by Penn Vogler. So this is a different person. This is a different one. And so there are two different books by two different publishers. So I'll just show you. It does have pictures in it. So I'm not sure which ones you all are ordering, but there must be several of them out there with by different authors. These are two. Now if you ordered one and you wanted the other, they're only about $4.95, sometimes less than that when you order from Abe Books or Thrift Books or one other book place where you can send for them. And you often get free postage with these, plus you get free books later on when you've had, I seem like I only have to order a couple and then I earn a free book. So now, ladies, I've shown you my show and tell. I've shown you my teacup. And if you would like, you can go to work. You don't have to sit here and watch me. Don't complain about not having time to watch a video, because you don't have to watch. There isn't anything here. I'm not going to show you how to make tea. I'm not going to show you how to cook. And I'm not going to show you how to clean house. I'm just going to talk to you and keep you company while you do what you need to do. Sometimes, you know, at home, there are some tedious things we have to do. Sort through a box of papers, fold some things, load and unload the dishwasher, or just do some grueling work that you're not really keen on doing. And it really helps to have a little company. And also, if you work while you listen, you'll find the time goes a lot faster, and some of those jobs that you dreaded tend to be a little bit lighter. So I would like to start with preparation. If you have not got ready today, if you don't look any good, you haven't combed your hair, you haven't washed your face, you haven't fixed yourself up, then now's the time to go and do that. Maybe you could just take a little extra time and put a little extra effort into your appearance, because your appearance is going to motivate you. It's going to make you feel like what you're doing is very important. Now, appearance, why appearance, and why do I start with appearance? Well, because appearance is kind of like a State of the Union address. Remember the When Queens Ride By story, which you can read online, and I believe it's probably on my sidebar somewhere where you can go to a link. It talked about a woman who told a story of a queen who had heard rumors that were spread by her enemies that her country was in disarray and that they were all going broke, and that the kingdom was going to be just crash. So what she did was she dressed up in her finest, and she got her finest carriage and her finest horses, and she rode through the town and waved to everyone. And you can read that story on how it inspired a housewife, someone who was very discouraged about what she was doing, and how it inspired her to get dressed up and to make a savory meal for her family, and to be happy, and to even though it seemed like, you know, in every family it always seems like you're 1 month away, doesn't it, from disaster. And that's why you need to dress like a State of the Union address, because you're giving the state of your union, of the family, of the home. You're giving a State of the Union address by the way you dress, and you're saying all is well and it's time to dress up. In fact, sometimes in our time when our children were younger, and my husband was always on the brink of some kind of financial disaster, he would say, let's get dressed up and let's go somewhere. because we didn't want the children to suffer too much from it, and we would go out to eat. And nothing ever, you look back, you can see God's care for you so much better when you're able to look back. When you get older, you see that all those disasters you worried about never came to be. And so I believe that if you'll get dressed up, if you will get your shower and get your hair fixed and do your skin care, your face, everything, that you will look good to yourself, and then you will have a happy home life based on the fact that you are giving it some dignity, that it's important enough for you to dress up for your children and to look nice for your children. And so I would like to also say that if you can possibly do it, if you can manage the time, if you can get up early enough to have a robust prayer life and pray about everything. Now, I know that it's hard to take time just to sit still for that amount of time, but you could also pray as you go. Have you ever thought about that? Do you ever have a walking, talking prayer life? And this helps a lot in sharing ideas with the Lord as to what you would really like, and accomplishing it becomes so much more accessible to you when you have a robust prayer life. So now I would like to move on to my next subject, and I wanted to talk at least 15 minutes on appearance. I think I don't want to repeat too much of what I said in the previous video, so it's kind of hard to come up with something new about appearance. But if you are allowing society around you to dictate what you wear, you could become very unhappy waiting for the era to come when the fashion comes back your way and it's things that you would like. You don't have to do that anymore. You know, we have the internet now. We have thrift stores. We have all kinds of resources so that we can dress how we like. And wherever, I always remember that scripture where God said, with every temptation comes an escape. Do you know, for every really bad fashion that you're not happy with, and all the choices that you're not happy with, there will be a choice that is good. And I've seen that because I've lived long enough that I saw that even in the 60s, when everyone was wearing very unusual and terrible clothing, there was also another side to it. There were places to go to get things that were more interesting to people like me. And we didn't say that it was impossible. And you can always find it. It might be a little harder to find. It might be a little more expensive, but it's well worth it for human dignity to have the kind of clothing that you like and that inspire you. And a lot of times I think the reason ladies find it difficult to get started in the morning is the clothing that they're wearing. Now, this is a sweater that I got at Walmart many years ago at Christmas time. I always think I'm going to get rid of it, and then I wear it one day and somebody says something nice about it, so I decide to keep it. And I've been getting out the things that are more dressy because they just hang there in the closet and never wear out. So I've been wearing them around the house, and I put an apron over it when I'm doing something that might soil them, and then I can wear them a little longer. And instead of giving them away to Goodwill, I'll just wear them out. I'll just wear them at home, and I'll even wear them in the garden if they're, even if they're more dressy, and I want to get something new and I haven't worn out the old ones, I'll just start wearing these in the house. So now I want to move on to homemaking. So now that you're all ready, we want to talk about homemaking and home housekeeping. So housekeeping is not always the same as homemaking. It's not all about housework, Staying home is not all about housework, but it's all about keeping an eye on the house. For instance, I'm sitting here, I'm kind of looking over in different corners to see what needs to be done, if there's anything that needs to be picked up and needs to be moved, and I'll look at the general atmosphere and see if I like what it looks like and decide what needs to be changed, what needs to be put away, what's seasonal, what else I need to do. And so I think it's more creating an atmosphere that everyone will be happy in. And I think it's important to surround yourself at home in things that look good, in things that sound good, in things that feel good, smell good, and taste good. You know, I live out in the country, so I can't just get in the car and go to some coffee place or some place out there for socializing and something to eat or drink or somewhere to go. So what I have done is created a little coffee station in my house, and it's back in the laundry room where I had a little more space, and I used the old baby change table, and I put some fabric over it and some plastic over that, and then I plugged in all the water kettles, you know, the ones that shut off automatically, the kettles, and then put all the coffee that my husband likes on one side and all the tea that I like on the other side, and then I lined it with cups, and I have lighting around it, a little lamp there, and that way I have a place to go that is cheerful and create my own little station there. And so if you can't get out or you just don't want to, you can create the things that you get out for. Think about why you like to go somewhere and create that in your own home. So the skill of making a home is in making it look like your very own. And so that's one of the things, you know, my coffee station is my very own. It looks like nobody else's, that's for sure. And you can do that too. And a home is not supposed to look like a waiting room or some other formal place for the public. It has to be uniquely your own. And I would really warn you about getting too discouraged looking at sites where people seem to have this perfection and everything is new, because that's not the way it works. Now, most homes have something that they've inherited from their grandparents or parents, and then they have a few new things, and then they have things that they've had to replace. So, you know, you might have a set of something like living room furniture, couch and chair, and end tables, coffee tables, and something wears out and you have to replace it, and then it no longer matches, and that's the way a home is. And then there'll be different things that will change over the years, but the idea is, of course, is to make it yours and to make it your home. Now, another thing I want to talk about for the home and for homemaking, you have to approach it not so much as a grueling job to be done, like Emma would say, but as something that you make it easy for yourself to like. Put on some music, put on your favorite whatever, and listen to it as you go. Talk to someone, have your children follow you around and imitate you, and talk to them. You know, now children, we're going to do this, and have them be helpful and be cheerful at it, because you have to enjoy it as well. And the big skill in homemaking is not to act like a martyr and huff and puff and gasp and say, you know, I've just cleaned the bathroom and it was a grueling job, but to do the little things that make it a cheerful and light task. And don't go around making everybody else suffer because you are cleaning house. Just, you know, just make it look effortless. That is the skill. Make it look effortless. Someone asks you what you're doing, say, I'm cleaning the bathroom, dear. And, you know, my parents always used to call us dear. And I would say, Daddy, and he would say, yes, dear. And when he would call me on the phone, he would say, how are you, dear? So if someone asks me what I'm doing, I'm saying, clean the bathroom, dear. And do it in such a way as that it's not such a huge, grueling job, but do it pleasantly. Do it little by little and enjoy it. Enjoy the results. And the wonderful thing about housekeeping and homemaking is you get instant results. And you can go back and look at it and see it and get encouraged by it. So I think it's really important not to always be looking at Friday. Oh, when Friday comes, you know, people that have to work outside the home, they can't wait till Friday because they feel free. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they feel free. But we at home, Monday should be our favorite day, Monday to Friday, because we're free. We're free from the world. We're free from having to do too much, and sometimes weekends can be pretty loaded, you know. So we should be happy on Monday. Monday is free, and I never really agreed with Monday being a sorry blue day. Of course, I like blue, so I wonder why they don't call it Gray Monday. But I really think that we should be happy for Monday, and that's the beauty of being free at home, is that Monday through Friday are wonderful days. Now Saturday, when there's so much more commotion in the community and even at home, as people who work outside the home have to be home, and there's more noise, and you're not really as free. So Monday to Friday through Friday are wonderful days for people like us. And Monday is not a blue day to me. It's a wonderful day. I wake up in the morning, it's like a bright white day with a little hint of yellow. It's a beautiful day. I love Mondays because that day belongs to me, and I don't have to worry about where everybody is running off to. Now, the last couple times I had a video, there were quite a few people here, and I didn't get to say everything I wanted to say because someone was wanting something. So I hope to catch up with that a little bit today. So now there's also a fear in homemaking. People who start out with homemaking wonder how in the world they're going to make it. They really wonder about that. They worry about the money, and I'll have to tell you that I worried so long that all my adrenaline is gone, and I don't even feel anything anymore. And you'll get like that too, as you see that you've been looked after all these years, and you haven't ended up where you think you would have. And so the fears will go away when you realize that you're doing what you can with your hands, and you're taking care of your own possessions in such a way that you don't have to replace them all the time. You're looking after, one of the reasons we teach the children not to slam the door, but to turn the knob and close it carefully, is it won't wear out the latch. And then you don't have to replace the knob, and you don't have to replace the door. So you treat everything carefully. You teach everyone to take care of things, and if you'll take care of it too and keep it clean and repaired, then you're not going to have to replace it, and that's less money going out. And so when you also realize, if you have no vice, like if you don't smoke or drink or go out a lot and spend a lot of money and go on extravagant trips and vacations, I'm saying extravagant trips and vacations that are beyond your means, you are going to be okay at home. And many of us have learned how to be happy enough at home that having to go somewhere else it pales in comparison with the home, because we have our comfortable beds and our beautiful pillows and our nice towels, and everything is just tailor-made for us. And so we become happier at home, and we don't have to get away because the home has become so pleasant. We don't want to go somewhere else all the time. Now, that's not to say that you can't do that, but I'm just saying that you will lose your fear of going broke when you realize that at least if you don't have any vices, any bad vices. Of course, I do. I have fabric. I have a fabric vice, and I collect fabric. So I always tell people, well, I don't have any vices, so I might as well buy fabric. So I do have fabric, and I'm gradually going through that and using it up. But if you don't have vices, you are going to be probably all right. And also, if you're not wasteful at home, you learned how to make things not to waste, not to throw away if you can. Now, one of the things that I like to do that I learned from someone else was this lady that I knew made a huge bowl of salad without lettuce. It had cabbage, it had carrots, it had all the things that you could actually cook, So she used it as a salad. She put everything in it that was, you were able to either use it as a salad, saute or stir fry it, or make a soup out of it. If you have all those vegetables chopped up in a great big bowl in the fridge, you can do three things with them. You can use them as a side salad, you can use them as a soup, and you can use them as a saute or stir fry. So that is just a beautiful way to have something in your fridge that's always available. for a side dish. You can always cook it with meat too, and so that's one of the things that I do, so that, and I chop everything up, my cauliflower and everything. I chop it all up and stick it in this bowl with a tight lid, and that way it doesn't sit in the crisper. Sometimes, you know, you have an awful surprise. You open up the crisper and you've forgotten that you had the cauliflower, half a head of it that you forgot, and it's gone bad. So and it's always better to put it in the crisper, but even then you can't leave it in there for a long time, and it's just always better to chop the stuff up and put it in a great big bowl that you can use. And another thing that I do is when I bring home things like meat, different kinds of meat, I will put them in smaller containers and stick them in the freezer, and that way I have it, then the meat won't go bad, so you can put them in the freezer. So now, see, you also need to make your home the best place to go. If you had a place you would like to go, what would it be like? And you can start working on that. You can start working on that for your home. And what would it be like? What would you like to see? What would you like to hear? What would you like to smell? What would you like to feel? How would you like the atmosphere to be? And what kind of setting would it be in? Maybe you aren't in the ideal setting. Maybe you're wanting a better place. Let me give you a hint about that. And that is to always keep your dream of a better place. Always keep your plans. Always keep your hopes. But at the same time, do the best you can at home with what you have. And the best you can means that for people who don't have a home yet, or are renting, or are living somewhere else in less than ideal conditions, take care of what belongs to you. Take care of your possessions. And although the house may not belong to you, like many of us who live in preachers' homes, the house doesn't belong to us, but what's in it belongs to us, and we can look after that. We can take care of our possessions. And one of the things that I used to like, because we used to move around a little bit more. We haven't moved around in nearly 30 years, but we used to, when we first started out, moved around every few years. And I had my furniture, and it made me happy. It was not anything real expensive, or probably a lot of it was secondhand, but it was mine. And I always enjoyed, when we moved to the next place, setting it all up exactly the same as I was in the previous house. And I think that it helped the children a lot too, because when they woke up, the couch was in pretty much the same place, next to the chair, next to all this was familiar to them. Everything was arranged very familiar to the children, and to me, I seemed to adjust better when we had to move. But while you're waiting for your home, for your ideal home, take care of what you got. Be a good steward of what you have, and that makes a really big difference. So that will help your mood too. Now we want to move on to friendships and prayer and things like that. Now, I talked about the State of a Union address for your family. That it's really good to sit down and talk to your family about how far you've come, what you've done, what you've accomplished, what you hope to accomplish, how you're overcoming any kind of setback, and teach them a little lesson, And one of the things that my family benefit from so much was the story of Joseph. As a matter of fact, my son preached the sermon the other day. He's in his 40s now, and he said that one of the stories that he grew up hearing was when we read the story of Joseph in the Old Testament, and how Joseph had taken a setback, being sold into slavery and away from his family and away from his country and with nothing. And he'd taken a setback and he'd turned it into wealth, and he turned it into something good, not just for himself, but for his enemies, the people that had captured him, his brothers who had sold him, and other countries in the world were all coming to Egypt to trade because he had made it prosperous. He'd taken a country that was sort of broken down and built it up through good economics. And So when his brothers came back to trade and to get grain for the family, and he reconciled with them, he said, "What you did to me, you meant for evil, but God meant it for good." And so if you could always look at things, like my son was telling, when he was in his sermon that Sunday, was saying that the he and the other children of the family would be looking down, crying and sobbing when I was reading that story, because it was so touching, the reconciliation of the brothers. And it was really interesting to hear him say that, because all that time I was sniffling and turning my head and hiding behind my hair, because I didn't want them to know that I was crying too, because it was such a touching story. And he mentioned that, how touching that story had been to him. But what's more important, of course, is how Joseph took something that was meant for evil and turned it into good. Now, if you've had some setbacks in your home and things that you could just kick yourself for, maybe financial setbacks or disasters and wastes and purchases that you shouldn't have purchased, and money gone and that sort of thing, you try to turn it around into something successful and into something good out of it, rather than stew for years and years and live with a wound and be upset over things that you can't change. To use it as Joseph, kind of read that story and use it as Joseph did. And it's interesting to hear my children talk about the things that I read to them when they were younger. Of course, they were homeschooled, so they had learned how to focus and look at a story and what they were looking for, and how to ask questions like, is it what was good about it, and what was this about it and that about it, and to analyze a story. And so when it came down to reading a story like Joseph, their emotions were very tender. And that is one thing that was so valuable about homeschooling, is that their emotions were used in the proper place. And they were very tender, and they were very tender-hearted about this reconciliation. But more than that was what Joseph did, and that's what each of us can do. Can take a broken down, maybe disastrous house or life and build it back up and make the best of it. And so I want to go on to, and so since I planted that idea, I want to go on to people. And the reason that I put people in these speeches is because you're going to deal with them. You might think that since you're homemaking now, everyone's just going to leave you alone. But it's interesting how the homemaker almost is besieged by people who want to know what she's doing and how she's doing it, how she's going to make it, and where you're getting your money. And that seems to be obsessed. People seem to be obsessed with that, And so we will get people. You will get people. I'm sure you'll say, well, it's never happened to me. But for some reason, the homemaker, people perceive her as not quite knowing what she's doing, or as being less than intelligent because she's home. She must not be very intelligent. She must not have an education, because why would she stay home, if she had an education? One of the things you can do to prevent some of these naysayers and their thoughts is to do what I said in the beginning, is to dress up, because it takes away the perception that you're not intelligent. If you will dress up, it just shows, it makes you look professional. And also to keep your house well, because that is also professional. And it also prevents people from looking down on you and judging you the wrong way. Now, that doesn't mean they won't, but you can do what you can to maintain some kind of dignity and prevent some of the stuff that goes, some of the comments and some of the things that people say, and some of the thoughts that they have about you. And we do have a problem sometimes when friends try to monitor you. They want to come over, they know that you're available, and they try to monitor you. Maybe they even try to boss your children and that sort of thing. And they want to say, why don't you go on vacation this year? And you'll say, well, we decided we didn't want to spend the money. Now, that's the best thing to say. We decided we just didn't want to spend the money. There's some other things we want to do worse. We want to have, build a new addition. We want to buy a dishwasher. We want to do this. Because if you say, we can't afford it. They'll say, well, you could, and if you have a talent like sewing, like I do, they'd say, you could sew for people and you could make a lot of money. Well, what they don't realize is that takes up all your housekeeping time, your time for your family, and can be so obsessive. And then you have to wrap it all up and take it to the post office, and then you've got to send it to the order out, and then you've got to return it, the money, if they didn't like it or if it didn't fit or whatever. And if it's a quilt or something like that, you have to worry about damages to it. And the tremendous amount of time you put into sewing should be done for your family, because those are the heirlooms that they will have. Those are what they will have to remember you by. So put all that energy into making things for your own family. And you'll have friends and people that will say, that's why it's really dangerous to say we can't afford it. Just keep that out of your conversation. Just say, we've decided we'd like to put our money in a place, in a way that we could see it. You know, once a vacation is gone, it's gone with the wind, isn't it? You might have a few pictures in an album or on a phone, but for generally, it's money. I think there's a scripture in the Old Testament that talks about, like a man that traveleth, money makes itself wings and flies away, or money goes like a man that travels. And you know, travel always is so expensive, even by car. When we go on our little road trips or car trips, it's expensive. So we will say things like, well, we would really rather have some new towels. We'd rather have some new bedding, and we'd rather have some nice, meals. And one of the things that we decided was that we could probably save money on a lot of things. We could probably be frugal on a lot of things, but never on food. So we buy the highest quality food that we can have, and it's really worth it for good health. Buy the highest quality food, and we don't buy. We try not to buy the boxed, packaged, bottled, and we go for the fresh. And of course, we can always eat out once in a while. It's not so bad, but for the most part, we eat at home. And when you learn to cook, and you learn to cook with the really best ingredients and the most fresh ingredients, then eating at home is more pleasurable than eating out. And it seems like as I've gotten older that eating out is just not as enjoyable, because you start to be able to tell the difference between whether the food is fresh or whether it's, inferior. So with your friends that want to put you down and monitor you, I need to back up pretty soon, but I want to say that I've talked about this before, and I don't want to beat it to death, but the habit of contradicting and constantly instructing. Now, we've talked about the contradictor, the person that always knows how to do something better or needs to contradict you all the time. But then there's the habit of instruction. And that is the person that always uses something someone says as an opportunity to instruct them to do better and explain in long, boring details how to do something when it really didn't matter to them. And so I always remember Emma saying in Jane Austen's Emma about somebody, she wouldn't tell me anything. There was someone that was, I'm trying to think of what her name was, Jane Fairfax, I think it was, and Emma was trying to get some information out of her. She was rather fascinated with information. And she would ask a question about the Campbells and about somebody else, and Miss Fairfax would say, well, generally everyone says so, or generally, she just would give her only general answers. And if you want to watch that again and watch that, it's very, very clever. And people have always had this problem with other people that just want to know a little bit too much. And Jane Fairfax wouldn't tell me anything, she said, because she answered all the questions. She was very polite, but she just didn't tell her anything. She just said, some people say so, some people don't. And Mr. S, he's awful. He says someone will ask him something very personal, and he won't want to answer it, like, who did you vote for? And or what do you think of this candidate or this whatever? And he'll say, well, some of my friends are for him, and some of my friends are against him. I'll just stick with my friends. And he'll put them off. But so we have a problem with people wanting to know too much, and it's best to cut off the information but be polite. And you can watch that movie, Emma, and find this Jane Fairfax and how she cleverly answered her to get some ideas. The other thing is that someone had asked a question some time ago, and I've been thinking about it lately. You know, I never feel ready to do these videos. I never feel like my notes are in order, and I never feel like my head is straight to do it. So I had been thinking about this because I had tried to speak about it before and never really felt like it was complete. And that was how to entertain without feeling extremely stressed or nervous. You know, the best solution for that is to entertain your own family. Get out those tea recipes and put on an afternoon tea for your family. And practice, practice, practice. And serve your family nice meals and get accustomed to them so that pretty soon you can do them without looking at the book, and serve them with great ease. When you feel you're serving them with great ease, and also become a fairly good housekeeper. Clean as you go, pick up as you go. Don't pick it up, don't pass it up. You know, walk past, and be kind of an automatic cleaner-upper. So that when you do invite people that are not in your family or outside of your family or part of your family but that live somewhere else, you just feel comfortable with it. And if you'll practice on your family, all those nice things you want to do for other people, do it for your family first and get used to it, get them used to it, and then they will know how to behave and they will know how to help, and you'll feel comfortable with it. So don't even attempt it unless you can do it with your family with ease. Now, it's really important. I mentioned the State of the Union address, and I am saying when we're talking about the people part here, how important that State of the Union. I mentioned that it was part of the way you dress is declaring the State of the Union of how you are, of how everyone in your family is, and you represent your family. You represent that home union. And so I wanted to talk about it in relationship to people, and that is that you need to live in such a way that you declare the state of your family, so that you're not where you don't have a feeling of uncertainty all the time, and to have a sense of well-being in front of other people. And also, I think that it's important. I've written something here I can't read. I can't read it. So I have about 15 minutes left, and then I really have to get to work. We've had some company, and there have been people in the house. I've got some things that I need to put away and clean up. And so also I just want to reinforce the idea that to prevent people from thinking you're ignorant or that you're not educated, and I'll tell you what, most people in America are very well educated. Homemakers, especially, you can talk to homemakers, they're very well educated. They've listened to things on the web and on the radio for many years, and they also have things they get in the mail that they have subscribed to, that they can read concerning issues that are important to them, and they're very intelligent, very, very, very intelligent. They're very aware. If you ever wanted to start a movement, you would just get the housewives, and you get them stirred up. They're pretty powerful. But what I think the important thing is to not engage in conversation that's so trivial. Now, that being said, there's nothing wrong with saying, hello, how are you? I seem to have lost myself here. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hello, how are you? I'm fine. Those are so important. Those are precursors to more deep conversation. And a lot of people object to them, and they feel like that they're trivial and superficial. It's very important to learn, hello, how are you? And those greetings are so important. And even we had ladies' Bible class today, and we noticed that the greetings of all the different books in the New Testament, you get used to these little sayings like greetings. You'll start out with the word greetings, and it end with grace and peace be to you. And do you think for a minute that those people thought that that was just too trivial to pay any attention to? Those were very important to them. And so the hellos and the goodbyes and the greetings and that sort of things are icebreakers. They're very important. But also that we have to engage in conversation with our friends and with others that have some depth, that have a little more to it than the petty gossip of the county, as they said in Wives and Daughters. And so be really careful that you do have something to talk about that has some value, that can enhance the lives of other people, and that can make them feel more confident. And I think it's really important never to complain or run down your own family or your own country. That is so important. It must be awful to be a leader of a country, and the leader is all optimistic, but he can't seem to get the citizens up to believe it, you know. And a leader that that must give up sometimes, thinking, you know, I love this country, but I can't get the citizens to cheer up or anything like that. Because I think it's really important not to run down your country. I think it's important not to run down your own family or the local church that you're in. And if you do have church problems, I think it's very important just to keep them amongst the church members and not spread it around town. And I think that it's also important. Later on, I'd like to talk to you about church membership and what to expect and that sort of thing. One of the things you have to realize, you get into a church, they have done things a certain way for many years, and many of them are related to one another. They have their friends, they're happy there, and they might not be aware that they need to be maybe more welcoming to other people, but this is one of the things that might happen. And also, you can't go into a church and expect people to cater to you. You have to go in it's kind of like joining a message board or just a comment section. You know, you kind of have to watch and see. It has a certain personality. Have to watch and see who's, you know, what kind of conversation they have, and don't introduce anything until you have felt everything out. And don't come in and try to change everything. It's just like joining a family, you know. And so I think it's really important to talk up and not down about yourself, about your country, about the members of your family, and give everyone a good vision of what you're doing. And be careful not to reveal too much of your plans at the same time. Do give people good reports, and do say, I'm making great progress on, this is my favorite, I'm making great progress on that room. That's that bag storage room that's been driving me crazy for several years. But I'm making great progress on it. And even if I unload one box, move one thing, get one thing out of there, and sort one thing, and go through some old clothes or whatever, I am making progress. And I have enough work in there for the rest of my life, and I'm grateful. And that's what you have to be grateful to, too, that you might despair of all the things there are to do, but aren't you grateful that that's your work, and that you're not driven into forced labor in someone else's work, that at least it's forced labor in your own, the mess that you made? So I think it's really important to be happy. And also, ladies, would you please remember to leave a comment? And also, I'd like you to remember in your own life, pray about everything. Just pray about everything, and pray as you go, and pray that you can get accomplished what you want to accomplish. And also to remember to give your family a good State of the Union address. And I think that's just such a great idea, and it's so important. So ladies, if you have a comment, please leave it. And thank you so much for your prayers. Thank you so much. Some of you have left donations, and that's very, very nice. And I've been able to get a few accessories for the, what do you call them, sewing notions. So I can do the trim and things on certain things that I'm hoping to get back into showing you the homemade dresses that I'm making. And I'm going to recycle some of my teacups with that. And if you have, if you're unable to post a comment and it doesn't seem to post, remember it takes a little while because it comes into my email and then I have to moderate it and put it on so it won't go on immediately. It's to keep spam from going on. That's why it comes into me first. And if you don't think that it's posting at all, please just send me an email. My email is on the side there. So please just send me an email and I will paste it in for you. So until I see you again, I just hope you have a lovely day. I hope that this has helped. And I hope you haven't sat here and watched me. There isn't anything to watch. And it's created so that you can work while you listen, like you would in the old days. We had radio, remember? We used to listen to the radio and we turned that on and work. And so you can turn it off after a few minutes. You don't have to listen to the whole thing. So don't think that you are taking up time watching it, because you don't have to do that. You can listen. In the meantime, till I see you again, which I hope will be more often, I hope that you have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.